What's up, everybody? My name is Nico Blitz.
And I'm Jackie Ramirez.
And before we start the Mexipino podcast, we want to tell you all about our sponsors, Tap Tap Send.
Tap Tap Send is your remittance best friend. You can send money to the Philippines from the UK, Europe, US, and Canada.
And guess what? When you use code Mexipino, you don't only get $10, but you get an extra on top of that, $20 in total that you get to send to your friends and family over in the PH.
And when you use Tap Tap Send, you can send money with zero fees.
Yes.
That's zero fees. So make sure you guys use code Mexipino to get $20.
Hell yeah. Now, let's get back to the Mexipino podcast. Yee! Kamusta na kayo?
Hola, hola, everyone.
Hello.
Erik Escobar in the building, ladies and gentlemen. He is a comedian from Anaheim.
You know what? Born and raised like Carson, Gardena area, South Bay, Southern California. But I got married in December and we moved to Anaheim.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, congratulations.
Congrats, man.
It's weird being an Orange County person. You know what
No.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like people, you're like, OC. And I'm like, oh, whoa, parking. Not bad traffic.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Well, Carson's where all the Filipinos are.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely one of those places where growing up in Gardena, I feel like we had a lot of like great Japanese food, Hawaiian food. But one city over, that's where you get your real lumpia. You know what I mean? That's where you get like the good stuff. You know what I mean? It's like a little hidden gem.
Because that's where all the DJ homies are from too. So you'll have people like DJ Icy Ice. I'm not sure if you're up on him. Okay, and then my boy Good Morning Gabe too. He's also Filipino.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to work some of the radio stations over here. But yeah, like once I finally moved to LA, they told me like, bro, like you're in the wrong area. All the Filipinos are in Carson, bro.
Yeah, that's where it is. Carson's great. Mad hopes to Carson.
Carson and West Covina, I feel like
that's true. I remember that show, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
With Rachel Bloom.
No, I don't.
No.
So it was this girl who like fell in love with this guy, and he's Filipino. I'm pretty sure he's Filipino, and it all sets place in West Covina. And there's a big like West Covina musical number about like how great it is. I'm like, when did West Covina start getting love? But it's like Filipino boyfriend.
Yeah,
hey,
you know what?
That's hella funny.
Filipinos need to show that love for the cities we're definitely in. I feel like the top Filipino cities in California, right? Like it's definitely Daly City. You got to throw West Covina in there.
For sure.
You got to throw Carson in there. Am I missing any?
Well, there's a V up in, it's up in the Bay Area. It's not Valencia.
Vallejo?
Vallejo.
Yeah, Vallejo.
Hella Filipino. Oh man, everywhere you go, it just smells like Seafood City. It's great. It's beautiful. Oh my God, what's going on?
Seafood City.
I'm in a Bed Bath & Beyond and it smells like
It smells like a Seafood City.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, it's funny because there's not a restaurant, but like a grocery market like that, right? Back in the Bay Area, and it's called Pacific Super. So there was probably like two of these over around like the Daly City, San Francisco area. One of them close to a very close hot pot spot that me and Jackie like going to, right?
Nice.
And so it was closed down, and then Jackie noticed every time we drive by, she's like, babe, why is there always like a lot of seagulls? Like we're nowhere near the sea.
And like literally the Pacific Super is already shut down. It's abandoned, and it got demolished, and there was still seagulls there. And I was just like, why are there seagulls? And then Nico's like, well, because they could still smell the fish.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's insane. I'm like, the poor seagulls are there just eating cardboard and shit.
I feel like that's like the worst way to get like ghosted or catfished as a bird. To be like, I know to look up. Let's go over here. It smells like shrimp. Smells some good stuff together. And you're like, what is this? You know what I mean?
They just got blue balled, man. All the seagulls just got blue balled for real. Oh,
Sounds
man.
so sad. I feel bad for the seagulls of Vallejo now.
Yeah.
It's okay. They'll figure it out one day.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
They got some cheese wrapped McDonald's McDouble burgers hanging around on the floor somewhere.
Yeah, that's where you got the fat seagulls roaming around, like trying to find the actual fish. Oh man, but Erik Escobar, man. So he actually reached out because we were throwing our Mexipino Food Fest. Can you do the reach out thing again? I saw. Yeah, there we go.
That's how I reach out. It looks like weirdly sexual. Sorry, it's a PG show.
Right. Yeah. No, but you can cuss on this PG show. Just FYI.
Yeah.
But Erik actually reached out because we're throwing our Mexipino Food Fest going down on June 3rd.
Woo!
And he actually asked if he could host. And unfortunately at this time we don't have hosts for the food fest. But I was like, hey, like Mexipino comedian, like the last time we had a comedian on here was actually Jesus Sepulveda.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but he fulfilled like the Mexican side. So now I'm like, cool, now we have a Mexipino side with it.
Next level is a Filipino side.
Yeah.
To go down the order. I'm definitely the middle range. I'm the graveler of the situation. All right.
Yes.
Judy over here, Gollum over here. So being Filipino and Mexican comic, I get to do a lot of really fun stuff where there's like Filipino festivals. Sometimes I get to do stuff. If there's like big Latino things, I get to be a part.
Yeah.
And I always like reach out to shoot my shot. Like, all right, let's see. This is kind of cool. And when I saw this Mexipino food fest, I was like, I can't not say, what's up? This is like literally everything. So it was so cool when I saw it and I reached out. And it's great that we're doing this because I feel like, the love, the community, let's build it. Let's get to know each other. And we can always just grow and grow and grow as who we are. So
Yeah, man.
How long have you been a comedian?
I started 2008-ish.
2008? Okay.
Oh, man. When I was 3 years old. No.
Nice. I figured the beard kind of gave it away that you were 3 at that time.
Yeah, I got this at 2. It's definitely coming in really nice. I started doing it then, and then it's been a really great journey. It's been really, really fun. I think it's kind of wild because you start out just hoping that you can do it. You're like, this seems fun. 5 years down the line, you're working bar gigs, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, this is really fun. Another 5 years, you're working casinos or headlining clubs or whatever, and it's the wins feel really tangible. So it's something that I'm really grateful for, where not only am I doing what I love, not only am I getting to travel the country, tell jokes, whatever, but I can look and be like, all right, cool. 3 years ago, I wasn't here, and now I'm doing this.
Amen.
And it's really beautiful. I'm grateful every day.
That's awesome.
I love that, man. You just, it's cool to like do all these things year by year and then like look back. It's like, wow, like I really leveled up. I think Jackie's dad actually has a saying for Thanksgiving every single year.
Yeah, my dad has a saying for Thanksgiving that literally every year, if you can... if you're better than you were last year, then you know that you've had a good year.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. And it's true because I think there's like, we can always be better. We can always be worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's up to us. But it's like, do I want to like complain and be like, oh no? Or I want to be like, you know what? I got a bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't have water pressure 2 years ago in that apartment. Now, oh man, an actual shower. Whoa. Like, a win's a win.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think like that, like, going in with that mentality, especially like in an industry that we all work in, it's very important to have like a positive mindset, a positive outlook, because it can be your spirits can be crushed very easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very high risk, high reward industry, right? Like 100%. Whether it be in like music, radio, comedy, it's because there's no blueprint that any of us could really follow. Nope. And even if there is a blueprint, it's not like, hey, if you do A, B, and C, this is going to happen and it's going to guarantee you like success and whatnot.
And I feel like, if you're first generation or if you're second generation and your parents are first generation or they immigrated over, a lot of people in the generation before us like kind of came to the States to have like this better life. And it's really exciting, but it's also like, all right, you can have a better life if you become a nurse or if you become a doctor, or if you become an engineer, or become a teacher. So to kind of take that gamble on yourself and be like, I'm going to do something risky and I don't know what I'm doing. Let's figure it out. Sometimes it's like, for our parents, I think it's like really like fun and exciting. Like, oh, we could never do this where we're from. But it's also like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Do something stable. So it's kind of cool. We get to take ownership of our lives and do it that way.
Exactly.
It's kind of cool.
Were either of your parents like the jokesters? Because my dad is the jokester, and I've come to realize like I very much mimic my dad in the sense of like the dad jokes that he has. I kind of take upon myself.
You mean the best jokes?
Yes, the best jokes. The best jokes.
Pun it up. Do you got like a quick dad joke that your dad? Because I feel like my dad has like one of 3 jokes that he's told to everyone my entire life.
Oh my God.
Does your dad have one of those?
No, he doesn't, but like I've just noticed that the way my dad like delivers things, that I've tended to deliver in that way too. Like you can't tell me like, hey, like come up with a joke right now or like, reference a joke. Like it'll kind of just like come into place. Like as of recently, I've been saying like pause a lot.
Oh
yeah, I've been saying pause a lot. Like for instance, I think when was it? I think it was yesterday. Oh, I got it. Yesterday, right? So I'm setting up my equipment for Dodgers and whatnot, and then the audio guy, he noticed that the cords were like a little bit, too short.
For sure.
So instead of like coming from the front instead of the cords coming from the front side, he was like, yeah, bro, like, do you just want to plug these from the back? And I'm like, pause. And then he looked at me and he's just like,
Like,
I hate you, bro.
I feel like there's a bit that I do similar to that, but it's phrasing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like, oh, instead of putting in the front, you want to put it in the back. It's like phrasing. You know what I mean? You could say that a different way.
I get
Take
it.
a pause, phrase it up. We're doing it.
I get it. Like, rephrase what you just said right here, bro. Yeah, I get that. Did you come up with that yourself or what?
You know what? I think I might have accidentally stolen it from something I saw. I think it was Archer. Now that I think about it, because Archer would
okay.
always he would say phrasing if something was kind of sexual.
Yeah.
So 18-year-old me was like, oh, that's great, and then 5 years later started doing it. I'm like, wait, where's that from? I don't know, but I like it.
that's hella funny. I like that.
I like phrasing.
Yeah,
I like phrasing.
Yeah. If I feel like pause is very oh, phrasing is kind of I'm gonna use one more syllable. Look at
It's kind of like the upscale version of pause.
The
You just add a
demure
couple
one,
more
yes.
letters.
No, 100%.
with the homies, it's pause. With
Yeah.
the titos and titas and the tias, it's phrasing. Yeah.
I'm praising, huh? I'm praising more. And
I'm praising the Lord and I'm praising the sexual talk. Do not talk like this.
there we go.
Yeah.
See, now you can use it in both contexts. I love that. I love that a lot.
So your dad was the jokey one, the funny one.
Yes.
For you, do you feel like you had a little bit of funny come in? Because I think when you're in kind of this thing, you always had a parent or an uncle or someone who was the wild one. You know
I
what
think
Who was it
I
for you?
had more of I think it was more of my dad and my brother.
It's always the guys.
Yeah.
It's your dad. It's your
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah,
It's always
it's my
the
dad
guys.
and my brother, because then my brother and I would make jokes about my mom, and then we'd always use that's what she said with my mom.
For sure.
And then now that we've gotten older, my mom now uses that's what she said to my brother and
I love that.
Yeah, the other day for Mother's Day, we were at my uncle's house, and my brother and I were saying, or my brother said something, but I was helping him pack something up, and my mom goes, "That's what she said," and then my brother and I looked at each other oh my gosh, she said
Flabbergasted.
it.
So I have a question for you. Does she use it appropriately, or she just
Yeah.
kind of throw it in whenever?
No, she uses it appropriately, but it's it's rare when she uses it, but when she uses it, it's damn, that was a good one. That was
My mom will try to make jokes, but I feel like sometimes it'll be let's just use that's what she said as an example. It'll be hey mom, I'm gonna go to the store. Do you do anything? Oh, that's what she said. Wait, no, that doesn't apply.
it doesn't make sense.
But they want to be a part of the fun. So they're
Yeah.
At least she's trying. At least she's trying. Yeah.
Dad, I'm really hungry. I'm gonna go. That's what she said. Why is everyone's hungry? We all need to eat. I don't know. We're going to lunch. For me, it was probably my dad as well. You know, he was the funny one. He was really silly, and I feel like my mom, who's Filipino, she was more strict, but she used to speak with such fondness about how when she was in first grade, she was an extra in a school play. And I think something about that stuck with her. So for her, it's this really beautiful thing to be oh, I was an artist once. I was an actor.
Oh, she held on to that for so
she's
long.
older. So for me to be a comedian and acting and all that stuff, I think there's part of her where it's I don't know, but me too. I did it. You know what I mean?
She's Anak, I'm living through you now.
Yeah. It's oh, well, you're living $5 for every gig that you do. That's great. That is the win. That is the win. But yeah.
I feel that's so funny because I hang on to this performance I did in second grade with I don't know, this was so random. So in elementary school, we had this teacher, and it was only one teacher who did a theater performances, and we would do retakes on classic films or anything like that. So we did Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And we'd have music numbers in between it. And I it's if you got put in this class, you were lucky because this was the theater class.
It was the only one.
It was the only one. And you would go to other schools to do the plays and everything like that. And I remember this one time we were playing Wizard of Oz, and I got Toto, the dog.
Nice. Wait, so you were Toto.
I
It's not
was
you got Toto and you're
no, I was
I'm that's a
Toto.
weird way to say that you were Dorothy. I got Toto. I was holding. Okay.
I was Toto.
Love it. Woof, woof, bark, bark. Let's go.
And so I was just when I got the part, I was I don't talk. What am I going to do? Bark? And so then the twist was that Glenda the Good Witch gave me powers to talk.
Great. I like that.
So I was okay. I remember one time I had a wardrobe malfunction, and it was students were dressing each other, everything like that. We'd put on our costumes. So the dog costume was put on backwards, and I had the tail in front.
So you had a little doggy D, if you know what I'm talking about.
Doggy D.
And the tail was this big. I remember it because I didn't realize it. And
You're a kid. Yeah.
And then I knew the Velcro was supposed to be in front, but then I went like this and the Velcro was in the back and I just went, oh no. And it was at a different school. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so bad. Like I hang on to that memory forever.
You know what? Nothing's wrong if that dog has some different pronouns. All right, you identify in whatever dog way you want to identify.
Yeah, you know what? Her peck, her choice.
Her peck,
or her,
boom,
you know what I mean?
boom. I wore this shirt just for this story. So you said that was
I was waiting to finally say that.
Oh yeah, boom, in. For all things Phil-Am, check him out. They actually do a lot of these cool shirts, and I feel like this one I was very like, I don't know. I remember I wore it, and then I posted a picture or something on Instagram or Facebook, and my mom was like, I do not like that.
Really?
She's more on the, yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah. I get it.
But now, like, I was like, I'll wear this once in a while, and now I wear it as much as I can, just out of spite for my mom.
Yeah.
But it's...
Well, first, for context, peck actually means, like, vagina for people who don't understand that.
Yes. So for virgins and people who do not speak Tagalog, it is for... No, it's fine. They're synonyms. If you don't speak Tagalog, you're not getting any. No, it's fine. But going back to what you said about those memories, like, it's so true. Like, I don't know about you, but I feel like there's definitely moments in my life, you know, in 6th grade, I played like bass in like a band. I was like, this is the coolest thing I'll ever do. And you'll even talk to like people who like would like to do acting or they want to be comics. And they're like, yeah, you know, like when I was in high school, like when I was 15, I told the joke and all these people laughed. And those moments, they really like stick with you. Grow within you and like inspire you to do more things. It's a beautiful thing.
I think for me, there was a talent show back when I was in like 7th grade or 8th grade, and I had just made like my first song ever.
Ooh.
Right? I made my first song ever. Shouts out to Mr. Bowles because he introduced me to GarageBand.
Go Mr. Bowles.
Yeah, Mr. Bowles. Like, you know, like Bowles. And so like he introduced me to GarageBand.
Mr. Bowles, this guy just smoking a lot of weed. Mr. Bowles, right here.
So, man.
The talent show now. I'm finally ready. Finally loose enough. Here we go.
So he introduced me to GarageBand, and then like during recess, instead of actually playing with my friends, I would like stay. I would stay in recess and like actually like make beats, and he would show me what to do. And it was just like loops and whatnot.
Yeah.
So then come by like the talent show for like 7th grade, I had performed this song. It was my first song ever. It was called Go Dummy in front of like everybody. And it was like the coolest thing because everybody was like, oh yeah, super cool, da da da. And I remember like in my, you know, like when you graduate from 8th grade, you have people like signing your yearbook and whatnot.
Sure, yeah.
I remember everybody saying like, yo, you're going to be a superstar one day. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Yeah, all because of you.
Now we're doing podcasts and DJing. So you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a superstar.
And I feel like no matter what you do, if you like play stadiums, if you go on tour or whatever, like you're always chasing that high from 2nd grade, from the talent show in high school. You know what I mean? That's what you're always like running towards. I don't care what you do that's massive. It's like, I just want to feel like I did when I was 7 years old and I was the Tin Man for 30 people in the multi-purpose room.
And you know what? I've talked to Jackie about this, but that is so much, and just to get a little bit deep here, but like that is so much like a drug is like creatives that we're always trying to chase, right? Because imagine having like, for me, like, you know, a DJ show. Imagine for Jackie, whether she's hosting like Dodgers or radio and whatnot, or you having just like an outstanding just like comedy show at like, I don't know, bumfuck middle of nowhere, USA, right? And
shout out to
like
bumfuck middle of nowhere, great place. Go to Joey's Italian Sandwiches. It's on Main Street, right on the corner of bumfucking Main. It's great. Yeah.
But like you have an amazing show, and imagine you doing the same thing over and over again, because I'm sure you have like the same skits that you run through over. I
haven't written a new joke for the past 5 years.
Amen.
You're 100% yes.
But you go through the same routine, and then it just so happens in this one city it just popped off. And then you got to do it again the next day, and you're just like, well, what happened to that feeling that I just had yesterday? I feel like I just did it, you know?
Sometimes it's not even like a new city. Sometimes it's like, you know, a club might book you for 2 shows on Friday, 2 shows on Saturday. Early show, standing O. Late show, bomb. First show Saturday, you do okay. Last show, I don't know, maybe do a little better than okay. And it's like I did the same 45 more or less for all y'all, and in the same place, it's like what, like what's the rhyme? What's the reason?
Yeah, it's nuts. I think it's something that we end up like getting into our head, like because we always want to be better than like the person who we were like yesterday.
Yeah,
100%.
And like so when you have those like you said, you have this first show that just went like everybody loved it. The second show, you're just kind of like, okay, kind of the reaction I wanted. Does that like mess with you like constantly, or are you just kind of like, I'm used to it at this point?
I feel like the most successful that I can be on stage is when I'm present. And I know if a show is going well or going not well by how autopilot I am. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm really present. I'm picking up on things. Oh, this guy did a thing, calling back to it. Oh, crowd in the back, ha ha. When I'm in that mode where I'm so just in the moment, I know what I'm doing, then I know I'm doing well. If an audience loves me, but I feel like I autopiloted that set, it's almost not as successful than if I did okay, but I was taking a lot of risk and like, this couple liked me and that couple liked me, but they didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it messes with me a little bit, but what messes with me more is when I'm like, I'm like checking out on stage. And I'm just like, all right, I know these 5 jokes. I'm just going to say them instead of being like intentionally like with the crowd.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I actually get that a lot whenever I'm DJing too, because it's like I've been through the reins enough to know like, okay, well, these songs and this succession is going to work, and then I do this, and then these songs are going to work. I already know what's going to happen. Everyone's going to jump. Everyone's going to do. And for me, it's just like, it's not surprising when it happens because it's like, I know it's going to happen already.
Yeah.
But it's until I take a risk and play like, I don't know, some far off random, let's say Bebo by Black Eyed Peas, and everyone's going crazy.
The Wiggles theme song. Now's the time. Boom.
Let's play that fruit salad. Yummy.
In my tummy, in my tummy.
Everybody say tummy on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Tummy.
That's hella funny.
Yeah, it's weird, man. But it's cool that you can relate to that, though.
It's something that I feel like, I think it was Louis Anderson or some comic was saying like, you can have a great show, but you won't learn anything from it. You know what I mean? But it can be a great show. But when you like eat shit, or when like things get really bad, or when you're like out there just drowning, that's when you learn lessons. And I would rather learn a lesson to help out Erik a year from now or a month from now than just know I can coast on, the same 30, 45 hour that I've been doing forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you... Damn, I forgot my question right now. But like...
Okay. I know the Wiggles thing really threw us off. I got a party in my tummy. I'm going to focus on that.
I want fruit salad now, ladies and gentlemen.
I literally totally forgot what I was going to ask. That's hella funny.
You're all good. You're all
I have
good.
something-
It was the fruit salad thing, I think, that threw me
I
off.
do have something that I want to say, and it goes back to Eric's shirt right now that says "Her peck back, her choice." I always had a theory of why, how in Tagalog language or Filipino language rather, why the penis is referred to as the birdie.
You know what? I, until this moment, thought that was only like a thing that my parents did. Because I remember
really?
they always called it a birdie. And then I remember some like tito, like some like older like Filipino guy referred to it as a bird once.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you're a bird. And I was like, oh, wait, I thought my parents called it the birdie because they wanted it to be like a little less like aggressive.
Yeah, PG.
But is like bird like what Filipinos say? So it's interesting because you had birdie too.
Yeah, so it's either bird or
Interesting.
birdie. So
You learn something new every day on this PG show. You learn something new every day.
There's a song.
Birdie?
There's a
Yeah,
song.
it's called "Don't Touch My Birdie."
Oh my! Don't without consent, please.
Yeah, without consent.
without consent.
But basically, my theory was that once I saw the two words just like put together, I was like, "Well, a birdie. What do birdies do? They peck.
They peck.
They peck.
Well, you know what? A good birdie pecks, but a great birdie pecks. You know what I mean? It gets more. There's more peck in the peck. You know what I mean? It's a good time.
Oh my God.
Well, how Filipinos like to double up words, so
They
it can't
do.
just be like one peck. They got to peck back.
This is mind blowing. I
Right?
didn't realize this was a thing.
It makes
I
sense,
need to
right?
look up
Makes
the song
total
for you.
sense.
Hold on.
That's so weird because I didn't think like birdie was really like a thing, and then I heard bird like when I was like I don't know, maybe like 5 to 10 years. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't just my family. But when I thought about pekpek, I was like, oh, it's just some Filipino thing. But the birdie and the pekpek, they both.
Yeah, it correlates now, right? It definitely correlates. I had thought of it because like when we started listening to this song, "Don't Touch My Birdie." It's actually "Please Don't Touch My Birdie"
by the Wiggles. Actually, it's another fantastic Wiggles track.
Yeah, if you didn't know that the Wiggles were actually Filipino, now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know.
I think one of them is.
I wouldn't be I think he's because they're Australian, but there's one who's like slightly more brown than everyone. Right. There's a tan Wiggle, and I would like to claim the tan Wiggle for.
No, look, this is a song. Hold on.
What's up, Mexipino family? We know you're enjoying this beautiful conversation with Mexipino comedian Erik Escobar, but we wanted to stop the podcast momentarily just to talk about our sponsors, Tap Tap Send.
You guys already know that Tap Tap Send lets you send money to the Philippines from the UK, US, Europe, and Canada for 0 fees. So literally you can send $20 to your family in the Philippines and they'll get $20.
And speaking of $20, now that when you use the code Mexipino and send money to the Philippines, you get $20 that you could send over to your friends and family over there.
So make sure you guys download the Tap Tap Send app right now. Plus, we have a giveaway going on our Instagram, so make sure you guys check it out.
All right, here we go. Don't touch my birdie. Not the interpretive dance.
He says, like, resist temptation, please. Like, I'm like, yo, when Nico showed me this and, like, me not knowing anything about, like, Tagalog or, like, Filipino, I was just like, there's a song about, like, an actual penis. Like, that's crazy.
If you were to say, like, don't touch my dick, a little aggressive. Don't touch my, I don't know, privates. But don't touch my birdie is so sweet sounding.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're someone who doesn't understand the language, you're like, oh, this is kind of cute. Like, maybe he's talking about, like, his actual pet bird.
If I met a woman at a bar who was getting a little aggressive with me, maybe a little too flirty, and I said, hey, don't touch my birdie, I feel like she would back off.
Amen.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, you know what?
Amen.
I respect that.
You know what? Now that we're on the subject, I've always wanted to talk about this.
This is a great line of logic that we're going through.
No, this is great because I've always wanted to talk about this. And it just made sense because Jackie and I just came back from Mexico. We were in Cabo, and then we were just at like one of the one of the consignment stores, like, and it's kind of like in the Philippines too, where they just have like booths of people just like selling stuff and whatnot. But I've always wondered now, why the hell when either you go to the Philippines or Mexico, the consignment stores, they glorify like penises and vaginas so much. It's insane.
Not wrong, because we have the barrel man, the Filipino barrel man, huge thing. Well, medium thing. I feel like it's depending.
Small thing depending on how much you've paid.
Exactly. That's a life lesson right there. That is a life lesson. Woo. Let's not get into that.
Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
I think what it is a lot of these destinations, it's like you might have like a boys trip or a bachelorette party or a bachelor party.
Yeah.
And those are like fun little things. Like you're not going to get, a little statue of the Virgin Mary, but a statue of a penis. Hey, a little fun thing to talk about. Did you have the barrel guys growing up?
I have a barrel man like over there.
Oh, man.
So get this. The first time Jackie had come over here, right? I was like, hey, like, why don't you check out this like Filipino, like, like one of the trademarks of the Philippines. She's like, okay, what do I do?
And then he was like, pause. This is the trademark of the Philippines right here. No pause, no phrasing. Just I am what I am.
No phrasing. But
this was like the first, like when we first started dating. It was my first time over here at the apartment, and he's like, here, just hold on to this and just pick it up. And I thought like, me being like, I'm always scared of things, so I was just kind of like this, and then I picked it up. I was like, is he dead ass right now?
I love that. My uncle, my Tito Bobby, he's super cool, but ever since I was a kid, this guy's like a very stoic man, a very serious man, didn't joke around much, just like a strong, kind of guy. Love him to death. But I remember like the first time I like saw him smile or exude any emotion. He came back from the Philippines and he's like, Erik, look at this. And he like showed me it, and then he was like, take off the barrel, and I took it off, and he was like, and that was like, to him, like the funniest thing And I'm like, oh, I'm not this barrel man. You broke Tito Bobby. You know what I mean? He finally smiled. It's great.
Oh,
how did they even come up with that? How is that tied to our culture and lineage?
I don't know.
You know,
we read about it.
We did read about it.
But I completely forgot about it. It had to do
I'm going to look it up while you guys banter.
No, but and then when we went to Cabo, it was funny because then we went into this little like a little flea market.
Yeah.
And Nico's seeing all the shot glasses and he's just there's boobs everywhere, there's penises everywhere. And then there was one piece, a weed piece. There was a girl with her legs open. And then
that was Mrs. Bowles. That was Mrs. Bowles.
Mrs. Bowles.
There's Mr. Bowles and then Mrs. Bowles. Right there, yeah.
And so then he's just like, how do you even operate this? I picked it up. I was like, well, this is how it would go. He goes, oh my God, that is absolutely insane. I
love that.
I was like, well, yeah, there it is. And he's just like, there's just too much going on right here. There's the detail in it too was crazy.
As it should be. You can't half-ass an ass bowl. You know what I mean? You can't do that. I get carb is the anus. You know what I mean?
So I'm looking it up right now, and this is just basically something I looked up on Google, but it did start in Baguio City, which is in the Philippines. And it is believed that it was created in the 1990s to mock the American colonizers who caused the displacement of Ibalois. Not sure. I don't know. But basically, just from what I'm reading right now, it was to mock colonizers. Basically.
You know how we'll get our revenge? You know how we'll get back at them?
We're going to show them our cock.
We're going to show them some dicks. Imagine instead of the Boston Tea Party, just a bunch of Americans being like, England! Here's all of our D's. Oh my! All of our birdies.
Well, actually, you know what? That might be the right thing because imagine people just saying, "You're not colonizing us. Suck our birdies."
There you go. Suck our birdies.
Suck our birdies.
Just like a balut. Treat it like a balut.
No.
Just crack it and then get the juice out and then don't eat the rest. I'm just a juice guy.
You know, Jackie's family, and granted, I've been around her family for a couple of years now, but they always want to relate Filipino things to me, whenever they get the chance, right?
It's
sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet.
It's very sweet. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Arizona or Delaware, someone where there's no Filipinos, and they find out I'm Filipino, oh, do you know that adobo? Have you had that adobo before? It's yeah, I've had adobo. Oh, do you know that Joe Coy fella? And it's yeah, okay, I get you're trying to connect. I get you're trying to do it, but it's okay. We can talk about something else. You know what I mean? But it's sweet when people try to do that.
Literally, the first time my uncle, or I had brought Nico over, right? Was it the first time?
It was the first time.
It was the first time. One of my uncles, he just comes up to Nico and he goes, yeah, I really like Joe Coy. I was like, I literally looked at him. I was like, why would you say some stupid shit like that?
Yeah.
I was like, you could have said anything else to this man.
But to be fair, I'm a big George Lopez fan. Just so you're aware, if I can gain some points with the host, big George Lopez fan. Once I had a burrito and it was great. It was wonderful. Yeah.
No, literally, and then Nico was just he understood. He was just okay. But then after, he was just I wanted to say so bad. Yeah, I'm a big Gabriel Iglesias fan.
There you go.
I love George Lopez and Gabriel. No, but then this time around, one of her uncles, it was actually his birthday. So shouts out to
Uncle Boy, Tito Boy,
Uncle Jonathan. But Uncle Jonathan, he was just yeah, man. So my one of my homies, he's Cambodian, right? And I was like, yeah, and his wife is Filipino. I'm like, okay,
that's great.
He's like, yeah, bro, and he eats what's that egg thing called, the balut? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you eat that shit? And I'm like, hell no. And your boy is wild for eating that because there's no way in hell I'm eating that, no matter how
I'm
good
Filipino.
It looks. Yeah.
You know what? I've tried the bullet. It's not my thing. What's crazy is people think that since you're Filipino, you eat all the Filipino food.
Yes.
And I'm like, nah, there's stuff I won't touch. I don't like the bagaong, the aluma, the shrimp paste.
Oh, no, I don't like that either.
It messes up the kare for me. I'm like, no, it's too shrimpy. But then people are like, oh, you must have that all the time. And it's like, no, it's just not my thing.
Well, you don't eat kare either. Well, because you're
allergic.
No,
I don't, because I'm allergic.
Oh, you would die.
Yeah,
that is very much a murderer.
Yeah, but I feel I haven't had much Filipino food since being with him because his excuse is that there's no really good Filipino Filipino food out here.
That's fair. We're not in Carson.
Yeah.
We're not in Carson.
Yeah, and mind you, the last time we had like really good Filipino food here was in West Covina.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That is very true. Actually.
Which we are nowhere near.
So when I first started dating my wife, I remember for our first date, I was like, we're going to go to this cool Filipino restaurant. She's Filipino. She's going to love it. It's going to be amazing. So I think I picked her up and I was like, hey, I was thinking we could go to this Filipino place. If not vibing that, we can go to like downtown Disney or something, like grab a drink, hang out. She's like, let's go to downtown Disney. And then we're talking about it later. And she's like, I eat so much Filipino food that I don't want to like go out and eat it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But for me, being half, my dad was such a picky eater. And he was also like the kind of Mexican where it was like, don't really speak Spanish. You know what I mean? You're American, you eat American food, stuff like that. So he was like that. So eating Filipino food for me was a treat. It was really excited. So when we went to my mom's like family's gatherings, birthdays, I was so excited because Filipino food was there. And Ani, my wonderful partner, hated having parties where there was all Filipino food. She liked the ones where it's like, we're going to have hot dogs, we're going to have hamburgers because she ate it so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Like we're both Filipino because she ate it so much. She's like, I don't really eat it unless I have to. And I'm like, no, give me more because I've eaten, Filipino food like 6 times a year when I was a kid. Because it never happened.
Half my life.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh man, I love it. I'm definitely like, I would say I'm like level 2. I don't go with the wild stuff, but I'll mess with most of it.
No, I feel like that's how Nico is when it comes to like my family parties. Like he is always so excited to go to a carne asada. And for me, I grew up like every Sunday it was a carne asada. And he's just like, man, I really hope there's carne asada. I'm like, yes, there's going to be carne asada.
And you're like, yes, this is great.
He's just like so excited. And then every time we go to the Bay to visit his family, his dad makes sotanghong.
Oh, nice.
And I
Love
just
it.
like love it. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I can't wait. Like I know your dad's gonna make sotanghong. Like I'm just so excited. Anytime we go like to the Bay, I know we're gonna probably go eat Filipino food. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Yeah, but it's like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like you love it if you don't have it enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but like growing up since Filipinos and both Mexicans have big families, is there either family like you spent more time with?
It was definitely the Filipino side.
Really?
So so I feel like culturally I had a lot more like Filipino growing up, and I love being Mexican. It's great, but my dad was definitely the more American version.
Okay.
And he had a brother, so I had an uncle. And my grandmother passed away when I was pretty young, about 3rd grade, and we really didn't know his side of the family too much.
Oh, okay.
On the other side, my mom like moved from the Philippines to here with her sister and her brother and my Lola. She lived with them, pretty much until she got married and met my dad. So she had such a strong connection with my cousins and my tita, my tito, that we were always going over there every Saturday. We were always going over there every Sunday. Any chance to go there, it was fun. So it was weird because I almost feel like I was like an undercover Mexican. You know what I mean? Because I was doing such Filipino stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, but also this other stuff.
Yeah. I feel like that's how it was for me too. Like my dad's side, I mean, obviously I'm like full Mexican, but like my dad's side, I never really saw growing up.
Same.
And I would say maybe we went over twice a year, which was really crazy to think about. My mom is one of 6. Oh, wow. So huge family on that side. But I think like growing up, it was just kind of like, okay, like let's go with mom's side. Dad says like they don't drink that much over there. Like they're like really religious over there. I'm like, okay, let's just stay on this side. It's fun over here.
I get that. And are both of your parents like from the Philippines? Was it growing up here?
Yeah, so both of my parents are from the Philippines. My mom actually moved here when she was 5. My dad didn't move here until he was about my age, so like 29, 30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
I
my
think
mom...
you said 21. I heard 21.
Yeah. 21, yes. Definitely 21.
You got your beard at 2 years old.
Exactly. But yeah, my mom rather is a little bit more like Americanized than my dad, and then my dad's
she's been here longer.
Yes, and then my dad's a little bit more traditional. So I kind of get like the best of both worlds, And then at times it's like my dad reminding us about like the traditional side, and my mom just also trying to Americanize us at the same time.
100%.
Yeah, which is a good balance,
I agree. Something I do wish I got more of is I feel like because I was half, I didn't hear Tagalog or any Spanish really spoken like in my house.
Yeah.
So like if Tagalog was said, it was either my mom on the phone or at a family event. So I didn't constantly hear another language. So I never picked up on another language.
Got you.
And it's interesting because like my partner, pretty much fluent in Tagalog. She's great. But her parents, I think they moved over here when they were in their 20s together. So she was getting a lot of Tagalog. She would hear it all the time. My sister-in-law and their family, I don't know if the mom was raised out here, but she's a little more like Americanized. She was younger. Okay. So she kind of speaks it, but also like, you know what I mean? She's in both worlds.
Yeah.
And then my mom is pretty much like, no Tagalog anytime unless she's like with like one of 5 people.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So it was interesting to see like the levels of how much people understand it because they were like exposed to it.
So, I have a question because Jackie and I were actually just talking about this the other day because just for some reason, I've been doing a lot of weddings over the past couple of weeks. So a lot of like, talks about like kids have been happening, right? So you being like just half and half, full Mexipino, right?
Boom.
So
full
like,
Mexipino, full half and half.
Full half and half.
You are full halo halo. You know what I mean?
You are halo halo / horchata.
Yeah. Delicious.
Yeah.
If you haven't mixed them, 10 out of 10. Yeah.
So like, we were talking about like when we have kids, right? Like I would want my kids to call, or our kids rather, to call my niece and nephew Kuya and Ate.
Yes.
Whereas for her niece, right, like she would just go by the name of Isla. I don't think like she would end up calling like her niece Isla.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just by her first name, right? So I guess like the question is like you. Actually, I don't even know if you have like siblings or not.
Only child.
Okay, only child. But
so
do you have
kinda
like
look
cousins or?
I do, and I kind of. It's weird because they didn't do it a lot, but like looking back on it, it's like, okay, I definitely saw it. Like I would consider like, my older woman cousin like Ate. I'm probably not going to call her Ate, but I know she's like Ate in the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think those titles are something that I want to hold on to and pass down. Like, it's not Uncle Pete, it's Ninong Pete. You know what I mean?
Okay,
okay. Maybe instead of saying, Isla, you can say Ate Isla or whatever it might be. But I feel like it's something that it's something that I'm intentionally going to try to do, but we'll like figure it out. You know what I mean? If it works out that way, great. If it's like, I'm not going to like force it hard. I'm going to push for it, but let's just see kind of where it goes. Cause I don't know.
Yeah, because that's what I was telling Nico too. Like when we do have kids, I'm like, I go like my aunts and my uncles. I say uncle and then tia. I never addressed any of my uncles, which is really weird. By
Tio.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I always grew up as like uncle, like my uncle Charlie, my uncle Jonathan, my uncle Beto. Like I never called him Tio. And then my aunts, I always called tia.
Yeah.
So, but I knew for Nico's side, I was like, so our kids, are they going to be saying like Tito and Tita or like aunt or uncle or like Tio and Tia? Like there's so many like different labels. I was like, oh, I can't.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
and
it is a lot.
When we first started dating, he had a really like uncomfortableness with calling my parents by their name.
Yeah. By their first name, right?
I can see that.
Because for him, it was just like auntie and uncle. And I was just like, I don't think you should do that because if we're out with my parents and we're holding hands and then they see you calling like
auntie,
and I'm just
incest
like,
time.
I'm just like, no, you could just call them by their name. Like my sister-in-law calls them by their name.
Yeah.
And he's just like, that's so weird to me. I was like, no, but you could just do that.
Weird.
Like there's just always this constant like, what do we do here? You know?
For my in-laws, it's interesting because I feel like I didn't know what to call them. So I think my wife was like, oh, you can call my mom like a mama because we always called her mama. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you can call my dad Papa, but I guess he had a nickname in the family that was Totoy. So it was like, oh, you can maybe refer to him as Totoy, but Totoy.
I have a Totoy too, by the way.
Yeah, I have Totoy 1. All right, shout out to you, Roger. You're great. You're Totoy 2. No, you're all great. But it's interesting because I think Totoy means like boy, or it means like a younger, affectionate kind of name.
It means like young boy.
Yeah, young dude. So it was weird because like I could call him Totoy, but then when our parents met, when we like got engaged and everything, it was like, oh, don't tell your parents to call him Totoy because it's not disrespectful, but it's like, that's not a nickname that they should call.
Yeah.
So it's weird because even like, someone might be Joe, but then they also might be Kuya, but then they also might be, so there's almost like these like weird different names for different situations. And it's like, what do I, when we're out, say their names. When we're in, say auntie and uncle. And it's like, which one is when?
Yeah, it's so damn
no wonder
confusing.
why we all have so much trauma. We just like don't know how to like talk in front of like, there's 18 different names for this.
Well, shoot, I mean, like, I have a whole bunch of cousins in the Philippines, and like, for the love of God, like, sometimes I just cannot remember their names. So I have to revert back to these nicknames where it'd be like, oh, Kuya, or it's like, oh, Totoy, you know what I mean? And it's like, it just makes it like so much easier.
It does.
Makes it easier.
100%.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, sometimes I'll know them as something and that's like not their name. And I'm like, oh, this is, Tita Cindy. You know what I mean? It's Tita Cindy. It's like, okay. And then you find out later, like, her name's like Rosario del Constelluego, like, princess. And you're like, how'd you get Cindy from that? Like, what do I call you? And you're like, so it's just Tita, hello.
Well, it's funny because I think this goes back to one of these IG reels that I saw from you. Like, you'll have like a Tita boy or like a Tita baby, right? And I think sometimes it's because like there's just a huge family, you just can't remember everybody's name. Exactly. And then you refer to them as like, I guess what their gender is, either boy or girl. So Tita boy or Tita baby.
Tita baby, yeah. And it's weird because 98% of all Filipinos, whether they're out here or there, like there's always like a boy and a baby. You know what I mean? Or there's a totoy. Or there's all these like common names where it's like, how does every family have one? You know what I mean? It's so interesting.
Yeah. And we just had, sorry to interrupt you, but we just had a guest on too. She had an Uncle Romy, and Nico has an Uncle Romy.
Oh, yeah. So I have a Tito Ramil. So close. Ramil and Romy.
Close enough.
There you go. Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, so it's like everyone has, I guess in like the Filipino culture, everyone has that like that one that you guys can all relate on.
I think it's also like when families are big, I feel like usually the youngest girl is always the baby. Like they're the Tita baby, at least from what I've seen in families. And usually I don't know if like the boy is the oldest or like the youngest. I always feel like boy is the wild one. You know what I mean? I've never met like a calm Tito boy. Every Tito boy is like smoking menthols like in the front porch of like, it's never just like a regular guy in a suit.
Always trying to offer you like a Budweiser or something.
It's like, why are you playing solitaire on the ground? Like, I feel like it's a weird gambling addiction. But it's interesting how like they all kind of like form like these archetypes almost and like stereotypes sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. These are the same guys who offer you the Budweisers, who got the gun in their hand in the Philippines, like shooting up in the air and whatnot.
They always have the transition sunglass glasses. You know what I mean? And they're always like, why are you wearing sunglasses inside? This is very odd.
Anak, look at this whenever I'm in the sun. It's like, it just changes.
It is magic. It is the magic glass.
Have you ever been to Mexico or the Philippines?
So I've been to, so what's weird is I've been to Mexico, but I've always been as kind of like more of a tourist.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, went to Ensenada, which was great. It was kind of for a vacation
I love
kind of
Ensenada.
thing. It's great.
I love enchiladas.
Oh, they're delicious. They're delicious. That is not the same. My grandmother, I believe, is from Ensenada, and my grandfather, who I never met, he's from Veracruz.
Okay.
So it's my goal to go to both one day, just, say hi to the family. And I saw them once, and then we went to Puerto Vallarta on a cruise once, which is cool, but a cruise is not like a let's experience. And then for the Philippines, I've been twice, and both times I was younger, which I really appreciated, but I want to go back as an adult. It's weird to look at it and be like, here are all these things that I could have loved and appreciated, but I was like a dumb 16-year-old. So I was just like, all right, I'm here somewhere, like whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually just went back there. Everyone on the podcast already knows, but I actually just went back there in January. Nice. And it's a different experience when you go back to wherever you're from.
Yeah.
Wait, let me phrasing.
Pause. Yeah.
But like whenever you go back to like your homeland, it's like a different experience. It's like, wow, like all these little things that you felt like you could have appreciated back then, you appreciate a lot more now, because it's like, when my family says like they were really like in the trenches, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like
the trenches,
man. Like this is insane. But like, even me stepping outside and with my family and whatnot, there's like this sense of like comfortability. It's like, my family's from here. I'm not from here, but I feel comfortable being around everybody here. But if you were just like some random tourist if you just like got pinned, like, in this part of the world, it'd be like, oh, what the hell am I doing here, bro?
Yeah. I really think there's something beautiful about like, I think there's kind of like a familial or ancestral like soul that we all have, or whatever it is. Like, you know, you might have experiences that was similar. You might have felt things that, you know, your grandmother, grandfather experienced, your great grandfather. You know, maybe there's something that connects us all, and it's something that's so cool and weird about going back to where you're from and being like, my people are from here, and like I feel it like in me, like this is home for generations. Yeah. And being a person of color growing up in California, it was fine. It was great, but it was definitely like I was the only Filipino in my school. You know, I was the only Mexican too. It was kind of more of like a white school, you know, a lot of black kids, but there weren't a lot of Asians, not a lot of minorities in that way. And I feel like going back to the Philippines, I felt a sense of identity and belonging that just felt so like natural. Yeah. You know what I mean? It wasn't like people were accepting of me and they were really kind to me, but it was more just like being there. You felt like this feels like weirdly right.
Yeah. So question, like, so, you know, on your Instagram, you have like a whole bunch of tour dates, right?
Yes.
Like it seems like you've been across like the US like crazy, right?
I get a tattoo every state I've been to, and I'm up to 30 tattoos.
Oh my God.
That's 30 tattoos, including one in Mexico and one Tahiti. So 28 states.
Oh, that's
the goal is to do 22 more states and fill up the calendar. You know what I mean? Let's get every single state in the country.
I kind of want to copy. Can I copy that? Is that cool?
Sure, that's fine. No, because he travels a lot too.
Yeah.
So
it's really great. It's really fun, and shouldn't have started it because it was very expensive. But I'm gonna go to Kansas and do this show for $100 and then pay for a $200 thigh piece. All right, that's
it's all about the experience and remembering it, right?
It is. It's wonderful.
No, but so like, you know, you being across the country and getting like 32 tattoos from across the country and other parts of like the world, right? Do you find that the relatability of you being both Mexican and Filipino is easy or difficult when you go to these spots? Because sometimes people will tell me like, yo, there's a huge like Filipino community in like Houston. I'm like, I never really knew that.
Yeah.
And then, oh, there's like a huge Filipino community in New Jersey. I'm like, I never knew that. So then do you get that familiarity when you are doing these shows at these random cities?
I do, and I feel like there's a certain level of, so I guess a little pre-story to this is, I think 6th, 7th grade, I discovered a comic named Rex Neverett. You guys know Rex?
Rex Neverett, yeah.
More old school.
We were just talking about him on the last podcast about Marites and the Superfruits.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
She's like cooking dinner, and she's like, I made Aquaman so upset because I was cooking fish. And he's like making the fish. I remember, so sad. So he was really big for me because not knowing a lot of Filipinos when I grew up, especially Filipino celebrities or Filipino comedians, for him to like make jokes about things that I could relate to. I didn't even know these were things that I wanted to relate to or things that I could relate to. Just like, oh, my mom does that. Oh, my tita does that. Oh, my cousins. Yeah, they talked about this. It made me feel so heard. And it made me feel like if I wanted to comedy, it was possible because someone like me is doing it and killing it and is doing great. And I feel like when I go to places where there's not a lot of people of color, not a lot of Filipinos, if there is one Filipino in the crowd, whether it's, you know, like whoever it is, when they see the show, even if I sprinkle in just a little bit of Filipino stuff, they really feel heard and they feel appreciated. And I think they feel a similar feeling to what I felt when I listened to Rex on, you know, an iPod in 2007. So that's what's really cool, where you may not see like 200 Filipinos come out in Rochester, Minnesota, but the two that are there, like they're, you know what I mean? They'll invite you out the next day to be like, want to get lunch? You know what I mean? Can I cook for you? Like, want to hang out? And that's the thing that pops me off really crazy. That's the thing I really like. In areas where it's weird because I think areas that are more diverse enjoy it, but they appreciate the racial or cultural context of things a little less. Where when it's like, you know, an area in the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot of diversity, the people who are diverse really like get stoked about it.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of it.
Yeah. Like they might have, you know, moved from the Philippines or moved from wherever, and they haven't even, you know, heard the word like pancit in forever. Yeah. So when we like have like a food joke where I'm like, oh yeah, I ate balut. Oh yeah, this. They're like, oh, I know what you're saying. And you're like, hell yeah, you do. What's up, Kuya? How you
doing? Do you find that like, as a comedian, because I know a lot of comedians that they don't like crowd work. Are you one of those that like loves it?
I like it. I like it a lot. And I feel like So I just did a show last weekend where the headliner was very, very crowd work heavy, and I was going on before him. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do a lot of crowd work, and it was weird because I haven't done like a straight like just material set in a long time, and it's a really fun skill to have, but it's a dangerous skill to have because I don't want to like rely on crowd work all the time. You know what I mean? I want to know if I have to just do my jokes, I can just do my jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to any art form, whether it's, like DJing or acting or comedy, whatever it is, music, more than the quality of the work is the connection that you create with the crowd. Like I could have the worst jokes in the whole world. I could be horrible, nothing but just dad jokes. Actually, dad jokes are great. Nothing but like just stupid, dumb jokes. But if I connect with them and they get me and we identify with each other, I can have a great show. I can have the best written material ever, but if I'm not connecting with them, they don't care.
Then what's the point for it?
And crowd work is a great way to get it like involved. Because for me, crowd work is like, I'm going to do a show right now that is just ours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we all talk to this couple, this bachelor party, this weird guy over here, this interesting, 3 people over here, no one's going to have that show again. We just shared that. And it creates the community. It creates more connection. So now when I do my jokes,
I was going to say the same thing.
phrasing. There's just a connection that's made. Without crowd work, I think it can be achievable, but with crowd work, it's a great way to be like, this is just ours. And it'll never be anyone else's.
That's sick. What would you say is like your favorite show of all time? Like this is peak Erik Escobar at this moment.
At this moment? Oh, that's a really good question. It's weird. I would say, you know what? The best show I had all time in peak Erik Escobar might be a little different because I think one of the most memorable, fun shows I had was probably in my first 6 or 7 months doing comedy, just doing like a full room. You know what I mean? I was doing like open mics. I was doing a lot of bars, tiny shows here and there. And then I finally got like a show at a club where it was a full house. And I was like, oh, this is what like it feels like. This is what it feels like to like do well for a lot of people. And I'll that's like burned into my brain. And that's like one of the most fun, best times I ever had. But I've done like way bigger and way better shows since then. Yeah. But that's the one where it's like, oh, this is what I want.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love
that's
that.
nice. I feel like, so growing up, because like, you said your dad was the funny one. Your mom was kind of like, I guess like the more serious
Great,
one.
but more reserved for sure.
Yeah, reserved. Yeah. Did they like...
I think it's a law that Filipino moms can't be too jokey. All right? They can be a little jokey.
Amen.
Yeah.
But there's a cap to it. You know what I mean? Like, we still have to be serious.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of like, okay, mom, just relax a little bit. Did your parents fully support this?
I feel like my mom risked a lot. She risked a lot and went through a lot to come to the States. So my uncle came over first. He brought over my Lola. She vouched for my tita, and then my mom was last. Oh, wow. So I think there was like a year, 2 years in between. So she saw all of her family leave her to create a better life. So it was hard for her to go through that. And she did that not only to create a better life for herself, but for her family, the family that she didn't even know she was going to have, you know what I mean, down the line. So for me, I look at that and I take it in a way where it's like, I want to take advantage of that opportunity. I could never be a working stand-up full-time comedian touring around in the Philippines, like in the situation they were in. It would have been too different. I can right here. So I want to take advantage of the life that she risked to give me. And I think she feels a very similar way where she was like, all right, Erik might not be making a ton of money. He might not have a lot of stability in his job, but you know what? He's happy and he's not asking me for too much money right now. So we will, we will support that. So I think for her, especially having that like second grade theatrical performance for her, like there's a little bit of like a spark of like, all right, I'm glad he's doing that. So yeah. I wouldn't say she's the most supportive, but I know she's down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay. And I appreciate it. My dad, I think he's just one of those dudes where he was always a jokester and I think he just wanted to be happy and be like stable. And I've gotten to that point and he's like, just like, cool, this is great. All right. You good? You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey dad, I'll buy you lunch. Do you want me to chip in? I got this. Erik's doing well. All right. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like whenever like, I think for me to like, as being Latino and being Mexican, my parents, whenever I can say like, oh, I got this, like guys, like, you know, it's fine. They're just kind of like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. Like that's when I'm able to provide for my family, even just those small ways, or get something for them that, you know, that makes me think of them. They're just kind of like, she's doing okay. For
so long, it was so hard just to like make stand-up work, working a lot of odd jobs, you know, driving, you know, like for 10 hours to do like a 20-minute gig for $50 and driving back. Like I just did what I had to do. And I feel like it was hard for them to understand that.
Yeah.
But over the last like 5-6 years, the payoff's been happening. And I've been very, very grateful. It's been a lot of hard work, but I've been very, very grateful to kind of reach a level where there's more stability and things are great. And I think for them, there was uncertainty, but now there's a level of like, okay, I get what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Is he good? We're good.
Yeah. I think like with my parents, like for me being a host and being an independent contractor, it was always just like, okay, I have this, now I need to look for the next thing while I'm doing this, and then keep on going. And it wasn't until recently, I just moved in a couple months ago, and for them it was really foreign. It's like you're moving in before marriage, you're like, you know, you have like these jobs where, you know, you keep on kind of having to roll over, and I finally got into radio where it's just like, I signed a contract, I'm on salary, and this is what I do, guys. And it finally clicked for them, like, she's going to be okay. And that's when I feel like you, as like your child of like, you know, your parents, who are, whether you're like, you know, you're Latino or Asian, they feel like, okay, you're fine now.
Like, you're good now.
It's so valid for them to feel fear around like having a child who wants like this unstable, like artistic thing. And I think the strictness or the blowback that comes from that from a lot of families, you know, it's not they're mad, it's just that they don't get it. You know what I mean? It's a very foreign concept. So it's almost on us to like prove them wrong, which kind of lights a fire under your butt to be like, I gotta make
because
this work.
I think at the same time too, it's like our parents busted their asses to work hard, like wherever they're from, Philippines, Mexico, whatever, and then to actually like get over here to the US, right?
So that's a mission in itself.
Yeah, that's a mission in itself. And then they work hard even more over here. And then the question is like, but for what, right? And that but for what is so that like we're able to like live out the dreams that we want to do, whether it be a comedian, be a in-stadium host, radio host, whether it be a DJ, like, you know, like we have to prove like, hey, like this is what you worked hard for, so we're gonna work equally as hard in the crafts that you're not familiar with. Yeah.
They also grew up with, I think, a certain level of, if you do this, you'll get to point B. If you do this, you'll get to point C. If you do this, you'll get to point D. So there was a very kind of like, all right, cool. I just need to work really hard, save my money, do my thing so this can happen. And then that happened, boom, boom, boom. And as millennials, I feel it's like you can work hard or not work hard. You're kind of screwed either way. So for us, it's like, why, you know, put time into something where it's like, okay, this could be great, but I get fired eventually or get laid off or this doesn't make me happy, or just invest my time in something that I think is going to be a risk but makes me happy. And it's a weird but exciting time to live where a lot of us are like, we're going to chase after the things that make us happy. We're going to chase after those experiences. We're going to make the risks. And our parents were a little more locked into do A, B, and C, where we're kind of like, all right, do what you got to do.
And I think like that's what it was for my parents too, where it's just like they never understood what exactly it was that I do. And they would see that like, okay, I would say like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then I get it and they're like, okay, like cool. Like, and then this is what I want to do. I did it. And they're like, okay, cool. I didn't finish college and I just had to make sure that if I wasn't going to get that piece of paper for my mom, for my dad, I needed to bust my ass to make sure that they knew that what I wanted to do is where I was going to get to.
Something that you reminded me of is I remember when I first started buying merch to like sell on the road. I think I bought a bunch of shirts and I sent them over to my parents' house. And my dad's like, what are you doing with these shirts? I'm like, oh, well, when I go on the road and tell jokes, you know, a lot of comedians will sell stuff after the show. He's like, so are you like a traveling shirt salesman? Are you like a traveling like clothing? And he like couldn't understand. And I was like, no, I like do a show. And then if they want to like hook it up, you know, they can like buy some. And he's like, yeah, so you're like a traveling clothing salesman. And like serious, not just like a bit. I'm like, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like you'll get it eventually. But No,
and then, I mean, he sells merch now too. And like his family's always like, Oh, where's our free one?
Yeah,
I know.
You realize it's potentially like $100 in this bag. You know?
Well, they're just like, well, we've been buying your merch for years, so when do we get the free one? It's like buy 5, get 1 free.
Yeah,
at least, you know?
Do you have a stamp card? I don't see the stamp card.
That's where the Filipino out of them actually comes out. It's like, we've been supporting you for how many years? Now we get the free one. Oh, man.
That's funny. I feel like I used to pawn off all like the merch that like didn't work to like my family. You know what I mean? It's like they had, like a shirt that wasn't printed right, or like stickers that came out. I'm like, oh yeah, parents, you know this. Oh, thank you.
Here's the free one right now.
Yeah, cool. Why does it say Carlos Mencia on it? It was the wrong pin. They gave me the wrong pin. Just
Erik Esteban?
Yeah, there's actually a comic named Erik Esteban.
Yeah,
so
no,
yes. We just trade merch every time we break
right.
it. Yeah.
So Erik, last question, man. But how do you, as a Mexipino comedian, define success?
Happiness. I feel like if you are content and you are happy, however you define that as, like, you're good. We're always going to have dry seasons. There's only a time when work is like super tough. There's always going to be highs and lows. I got into this game because it was really fun. I really like doing stand-up. I love making people laugh. I love traveling around. I love everything about it. I love 80% of the things about stand-up a lot. And it's a dream come true. And just to be able to do it and be more successful every year is a huge win, and that is success for me. I think when it stops being fun, you start being less successful. It's going to be hard, but if you've gone 6 months and been like, I hate this, like check yourself and be like, what is it? Because at the end of the day, we're putting a lot on the line. We're risking a lot for something that's not guaranteed, something we're not entitled to, something that could totally blow up in our face and never work. So if it's going to be a weird ride, might as well like have a good time doing it. So if you're having a good time, success.
Wow.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah. Well,
actually, I define success as being on the Mexipino podcast that we catch every week. Two great people, 2 great times. Go to the Food Fest. It's great.
yeah, man. Are we going to see you at the Food Fest?
I'm going to try to be there because it's on June 3rd. I feel like I'm on the road and I come back on like the 2nd. I'm on the road around that time, but I'm in town that day.
Oh, okay.
So I might like come in a little later, like go earlier, bounce out. But I'm not going to say no to Mexican and Filipino food everywhere. I'm going to make it work. I will cancel a road to go and get my beautiful carne asada lumpia. You know what I mean?
Well, go ahead and see Erik Escobar over at the Mexipino Food Fest, ladies and gentlemen.
Where can people buy tickets to your shows?
For sure. I would say the funnel is pretty much through my Instagram at Erik Escobar. Boom. Branding.
There we go.
At Erik Escobar, Erik with a K. Pretty much put everything on my Instagram, whether it's, upcoming shows, upcoming tour dates, fun shows that I'm on. So you can check me out on there, and it's really cool. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, all the usual social media stuff. There's 3 Erik Escobars on social media.
Nice.
There's me, there's a musician, and there's one who's not alive. So I am not a musician, and I am the alive one. This face. Click on that one. That'd be great.
There you go. My name is Nico Blitz.
I'm Jackie Ramirez.
Erik, hey.
Later, y'all. Peace.
Bye.